Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Alfred Hitchcock Presents review. Today it is Season 1, Episode 22, Place of Shadows, starring Everett Sloane as Father Vincente, Mark Damon as Ray Clements, and Sean McClory as Brother Jared. And this is what I would call an average episode. It has a decent enough story. It has some interesting twists and turns. And the twist ending isn't too bad either, but I do have some issues with this episode. There are a lot of plot points and character motivations that just seem to kind of come and go as the story needs them to and don't always feel completely natural to me. Others may find some satisfaction with some of these things, but I would just consider it an average episode overall. So we start with our lead character, who is really Clemens, but at this point he's claiming his name is Unser. We'll find out why soon. And he's waiting for a ride to a monastery, and we see that he is also armed, which is kind of a strange setup. So then a man named Brother Jared comes to take him. They drive there in some really bad weather, I have to say. And we are also Unser, or Clemens, whatever you want to call him at this point, asks about a Mr. Rocco, who we find out is injured, that he hurt his back. So that's pretty much the setup for our episode. Then we are introduced to the father in the next scene, who's another main character. And he meets with Unser, and Unser basically says, I have an envelope here. I want to see Rocco. I need to talk to him. And the father says he can't. I can't let you because Rocco has sanctuary. And I know you're really not Unser. I know your name is really Clemens. Because apparently Rocco described the man in question, and he has a different description. So we find out the whole story that Rocco basically took some money from Clemens, and the problem with this is that it wasn't Clemens' money to begin with. It was money that Clemens had borrowed. So now Clemens is basically in trouble. He says he's lost everything because of this guy. Basically, he lost his job and just a whole bunch of things, and he basically blames Rocco for all of this. So at this point, the father offers Clemens the money back. He says, Rocco's had a change of heart, and he gave me the money to give back to you. But Clemens isn't really buying this. He still wants revenge. The father tries to reason with him, but Clemens really doesn't want to listen. But as we'll find out, some of the father's words are getting through a little bit. So at this point, Clemens enters, which I think is some kind of service, and he kneels down. And this guy's really upset. He's troubled. It looks like he's kind of praying and crying at the same time. He's not really sure what to do. I think troubled would be a good word for Clemens at this point. So at this point, Clemens leaves, and he sees this man, another brother, I believe, bringing Rocco food. So he's ready to go in with his weapon and kill him, but the father stops him and tells him he can't do this. So Clemens says, fine, then I have to leave because I don't trust myself around this guy. I don't know what I'll do if I stay here. So the father seems to accept that story to be true. And another thing that's interesting here is we never do see the character of Rocco in this scene, and that might seem a little strange, but we'll find out at the end of the episode the reason for that. And I thought that part was handled pretty well overall. So at this point we get kind of an abrupt scene, but very important, where Brother Jared is talking to Clemens, and he tells him he was in the war, and he actually did kill some men. And he says, once you kill a man, you never forget it. You never forget, the look on their face. And this will be important to later in the story. So Clemens goes back. I believe he's in the station where he was waiting at the beginning of the episode. The only problem is now Unser is there. And, the man that he knocked out and was pretending to be. And Unser has a weapon as well, a gun. And he says basically he's questioning him. He wants to know about Rocco. And he also wants the money back. Clemens says he's not going to give him the money back. So Unser shoots Clemens. And I think that he assumes that he kills him because he's kind of caught off guard when Clemens comes back and shoots him. And Unser is dead at this point, and Clemens does look on his face, and he looks disturbed. So he remembers the story that Brother Jared told him, and now it basically comes true. That part was fine, I thought. So this is where parts of the plot get a little strange, then a little rushed, in my opinion. Two men, police officers, come to the monastery, and they want to question the father about Clemens because they know this man Unger was found dead, and they suspect Clemens. And the father basically tells them to feel free to come in and search around, but all he can tell them is that Clemens was there earlier in the day. And what we do find out in another scene is that Brother Jared did allow Clemens in and give him sanctuary. So as the police are about to leave, They hear Clemens talking from this room. So they listen from the outside as Clemens explains the whole story, and we as an audience know what he says is true, that Unser shot first and he shot back, and he says he didn't really want to kill him, and we can buy into that. But what I find strange about this whole thing is the police seem to just kind of accept this story. It seems like they're not going to dig into it any further, and this seemed a little bit odd to me. We as an audience saw this scene and know that it's true, but they weren't there at the scene. How do they know that Clemens didn't just make this up? I found that a little bit odd. Others might find it to their satisfaction, I guess. And then we get to the end of the episode, basically, where Clemens says that the father and brother Jared were right, that he's okay with Rocco now, he's at peace. So basically, he's a changed man. And I would say this is fairly believable based on the internal struggle that the character Clemens was having. But then we get to basically another twist in the episode where the father says, everything's okay now anyway because Rocco was passed away before you got here, but if I would have told you in the state you were in, it wouldn't have done any good. And I see the point he's trying to make, but I don't know if I totally buy that. That was a pretty big plot development, not to tell anybody about. I thought that there was kind of strange reasoning behind that. I mean, who's to know how he would have reacted if the man was already passed away? That just seems a little bit strange to me and kind of like a twist out of nowhere a little bit, but it works okay, I guess. Overall, I have mixed feelings about it as I do this episode. There's some good things and some bad things in Place of Shadows, and I give it a 2.5 out of 5. Probably an episode to watch once, though, as it does have some interesting elements to it. So 2.5 out of 5 for Place of Shadows, and as always, thank you very much for watching.